Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juggernaut, and these will be my first impressions of Cossacks 3. Cossacks 3 is a brand new game in the Cossacks series, and statistically speaking, the average viewer on YouTube probably doesn't even remember Cossacks 2. It has been ages since we had a Cossack game, and before we actually get into the gameplay itself and I show you everything there is to see initially with this game and all the sort of the mechanics and the base building and the units and stuff like that, let me just give you a sort of quick little TLDR of what I think about Cossacks 3. It is essentially a game very much in the same style as Age of Empires. I mean, it screams that sort of type of strategy game, and I am a huge fan of Cossacks thus far. Its massive advantage over other strategy games and its competition is the scale. You are constantly building hundreds of units, be it combat units, be it peasants, be it buildings. The scale of the game, and the scale of the combat, much more importantly, is fantastic. You have a huge amount of troops fighting each other, just like in Cossacks 2 and Cossacks 1, though it does divert away from Cossacks 2 quite a bit. It is quite different. So, first of all, I'm going to go into random map here. It's actually skirmish mode, or custom game, but it says random map for some reason. Speaking of which, I'm going to start up a random game here and just show you all the buildings and the units first, and then we're going to go into some actual combat and stuff, you know? There is also a campaign in the game, and several different tutorials that you can do, so don't worry about that, but for now, I'll just show you all the different units and things you need to manage. Speaking of bugs, however, I have seen two, I believe. Well, no, a couple. Namely, the game crashed for me once, and there's been a few AI... Well, sorry, not AI. A few UI bugs. This will get fixed, I have no doubt, and as a matter of fact, by the time of me uploading this and you seeing it, it has probably already been fixed. Though, well, I can't say that for sure, obviously, but there is some work to be done on this game still in the future. So, you start off with 18 peasants in this particular mode. In the campaign, you may start off with different things, of course. Actually, I think you start off with... Is it 18 or more than 18? I can't... Yes, it is 18 peasants. Good. Start off with 18 peasants. You first build your town hall. I'm going to take it, step by step so I can explain to you every single building, and then we're going to get into some actual, gameplay and combat. But first of all, this is your town hall. This is the basic structure and the first structure in your city. Next you have housing. This provides 15 dwellings. You need dwellings, it's kind of like unit cap, right? So the more housing you build, the more units you can house, and the more the more peasants you can build. You can do that, for example. Next, you have your mill, one of the most important structures as it generates farms, and that allows you to build food. Mines you build over these deposits here, and you can station 4 miners in them to work. Next, something that is a very welcome sight is that you directly click on the resource that you want to mine. For example, stone, and you see we have 4 people gathering stone. Now, it does take a bit for the mill to set up its farm, so in the meantime, we're also going to build a storehouse up here. Now, a storehouse, as you can see, is... It stores wood and stone, so we've placed it between a forest and a bunch of stone. There you go. Strategic placement and all that. In terms of the units that you can build, you have a 17th and 18th century progression, basically. So your units in the 17th century are going to be obviously vastly different from those in 100 years later. That said, there is a decent bit of unit variety, which I will show you in a bit, but for now let's also build a market. A market is where you manage these supplies. You either buy or sell them. If you have way too much wood, you sell it. Sex jokes. If you have way too much timber, you can sell it in exchange for gold, food, or whatever resource you happen to need at the time. Blacksmith is also one of those key and important buildings you want to get done as soon as you can, as it allows for upgrades to be constructed for your workers and buildings. Next, you want to keep producing peasants, and this is something that I found very interesting and very good about the game. You keep building peasants pretty much all the time. You keep growing your settlement. It's not a phase of like, okay, I'm going to build 2 settlers. Again, I keep calling them settlers. I'm going to build 2 peasants, they're going to construct something, and then I'm going to build another 2 in a minute. Now, the scale of this game is rather impressive. Now, it's no StarCraft in terms of the APM you're going to need to, stay on top of all of this, but the amount of units that you are going to manage and the amount of structures that you're going to manage are rather impressive. I wouldn't even call it a downside, because I like this graphic style, but one thing that people might not necessarily be huge fans of is the graphic style. It is certainly unique. It is in that very, very same type and vein as, like I said, Age of Empires and games similar to that. Then we're going to build our first barracks in, and that's going to allow us to produce units. Also stables. There we go. Like, put it down there. Now, I'm not going to compete against any AI opponent, because I want to just show you all the units and stuff, and then, like I said, later down in the video we're going to get to all of that. The game also, which I'm a huge fan of, allows you to pretty much surround your settlement in walls. Now, I'm no Donald Trump, but I believe that in this particular era, surrounding your entire settlement in walls is actually very, very helpful, which is what I'm going to do right now. And you're not really penalised for this. It is going to take the game a second to plot the entire thing. There we go. Now, here's the thing. The game actually encourages you to do this, which I'm a huge fan of. I always had an obsession in games like these to just surround the entire settlement with walls and gateways and, defend it like that. And usually you were penalised for that because the wall was too expensive and the AI would just usually focus down one way. Now, for example, they would attack you from this direction and that's it. Like, the rest of the wall will be pretty much useless. Here, it's very different. It's a different era, and as such, games have changed, and so has the AI, and as a result, you are now encouraged to encase your settlements in walls. And you're not really penalised for it either. You're actually encouraged to do so, like I said, which is a huge plus in my mind. Now, we can also research various upgrades, like so for our units, and we can begin building our 17th century musketeers. Something that I'm a huge fan of in this game is how quickly you build your units. Musketeers are one of the slowest units to build, which is perhaps why it's not exactly an ideal example, but they go out very quickly, and you're going to need tons of them. I'll show you the pikemen as well. They take 12 seconds to build, the pikemen take 4.5 seconds to build. That is very impressive, you have to admit, that is extremely impressive. Again, going back to the entire scale thing, you will see just gargantuan battles happen in your games, which is always a good thing, in my opinion. Right, so what else can we build? I suppose we can build an academy. This is where you guessed it. I mean, it's an academy. You go ahead and guess what you do there. So getting done with the stables, stuff like that. Now, I will say that I've bought the game recently, and that I've started playing it a couple of hours ago. I've sort of done the tutorial and the first few missions, which is to say I'm nowhere near of an expert in this game, so bear that in mind. You're not going to see any high-level play, at least not in the first segment of this video. I'll also build a few towers to defend our fair city. Like so. So. Get some more food going, and, right, well, here you can see the market as well. Musketeers are getting built. There was something else I wanted to, yes, the stables. Am I building it? Where is it? Have I even put down a stables is the question. Yes, I have. Here it is. All right, let's divert some workforce there to get it done quickly. Obviously, you build your cavalry there. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I want to show you the variety of units that you can field. So I'm going to cut here and skip forward in time a little bit when the settlement is sort of built up a little bit more so I can show you all the variety of units that you can get in a game. Okay, so a little bit later, we can see that I have constructed, from the 17th century barracks here, some more musketeers and a drummer and officer. These are vital in the 17th century as they command units. What this means is if you select your officer and drummer and they're close by to some other units, you can organize them in groups, though I seem to be struggling to do that right now. Hold on. I like this. There we go. You should be able to. No? Ah, there we go. You organize them in, like, either a square formation or a column or ranks. There you go. And this is very important later down the line, because units that fight in ranks are going to, obviously, especially musketeers, are going to be much better than a bunch of units that are just randomly standing out there in the open. If you put them in a square formation, they're going to do far, far better against cavalry than units that are, again, just standing there at random. Also, another really nice feature is this button. You can select all idle peasants, at least for a player such as myself. That is particularly useful at a time like this, right now, rather. Other than that, you also advance to the 18th century by upgrading your town hall here. Now, it is quite expensive and has building requirements. For example, for me right now, it is a cathedral. Which means that if I pay a certain amount of food, gold, and iron, I get 2 advances in the next century, leaving me with a lot more options in terms of both upgrades for the buildings. For example, this thing right here, it is very expensive, but it does increase the food output by 25%. Or something along the lines of the Academy, where you can build a whole load of stuff here, and again, it will upgrade your entire nation that you're building here, and it will, for example, either improve, what does this do? Heals all alive units, this will give you more firepower, this will give you more food, stuff like that, and in exchange for it, you pay various resources. Also, it will allow you to build some of the most advanced units in the game, other than just, research bonuses and buffs. It will allow you to build a multi-barreled cannon. I think this, actually, we might be able to build this in the 17th century as well. Where is it? Here, yes, here we go. It will allow you to build, I have no idea, I never knew how to pronounce this word. Cuirassiers? Cuirassiers? It's a French word, I don't know how to pronounce it. Hussars and dragoons. There you go, some proper English there. Dragoons, yes. Which are, as I said, advanced units in the next era. You have Reiters as well, or Reiters, which is like I believe historically it's like lower than a knight. Right? It's something like Squire, but one that's actually allowed to ride into battle and fight alongside everyone. Or they could be just flat out knights. I don't remember. My 17th century history is a little bit rusty at this point. Actually, they could be just regular knights, I'm not sure. You also research upgrades for your units down here, and that would be pretty much everything. You build your settlement. It also is a naval aspect of the game. You build ships. They can be either food ships, basically just fishermen's boats, ferries, which allow you to carry units, a sizable amount of units actually, across the waters, or combat vessels, depending on what type of nation you are and what style you like to play. Speaking of which, once again, nations. I'm now going to exit this game because you've seen pretty much everything you need to see in terms of the base building. There are quite a few nations. That many. Now, I will say that mostly the differences between these are cosmetic, and they are pretty big differences, right? Russia and England look nothing alike in terms of their peasants, in terms of their buildings, their everything. Whilst it is, for the most part, cosmetic, there are certain bonuses, certain units, certain uniques that each nation gets, which does determine their playstyle. So, as you might expect, England would be heavy on research, heavy on naval technologies, whereas Russia would be just sort of more of like technologically less advanced, but has more quantity, so they would like to put out maybe more pikemen than, or more, just more bodies out on the field than any other nation. Poland has obviously its winged hussars and stuff like that. Just stuff that I can think of off the top of my head, right? Venice, I would imagine, I've not played with Venice, but I would imagine they get some sort of bonus towards gold production, or maybe certain traders or ships that can generate gold. So each and every one of these nations does have its own defining characteristic features. Now, I'm going to play as... Let's change it up a bit. Let's play as Russia, because those are the only two nations I've played... Well, no, actually I've played with Sweden as well, so I might do that. And let's fight Turkey, because it's drastically different. Let's just basically... I'm going to show you a game of that right now. I do not exactly expect to win this. Like I said, first impressions video. I'm not the greatest player at this game, so I'm just here to show you everything there is to see about the game. In terms of the environment itself, and certain things that you cannot or cannot find on the maps, there isn't a lot. For example, what I mean is you're not going to find entire cities randomly in the middle of the map, where with just buildings you can garrison or whatever. Like, it's not that type of game. No, it's much more straightforward. You build your base, they build their base, you fight, and one of you wins. There's not a whole lot of interactivity in terms of the your surroundings. Well, other than the resources, obviously, which are very, very important, and you need to realize where the stone is, where the gold is, where the wood is, and stuff like that. It's all very important indeed. So, let's actually get down with the sickness. Hey, let's actually start by showing you a proper game against a proper opponent. I believe this is the score down here. I might be mistaken. I'm fairly certain you can turn it off. However, I can't guarantee it, but I'm fairly certain that you can actually turn this thing off. Be that as it may, I would like to have some visual representation of whether I'm actually doing good or not in this specific scenario and case, and see how, basically just see how badly the AI is going to wreck my face right now. They're apparently in the lead. Like I said, not the greatest player of all time. 5 units going to start working there. I should probably start my blacksmith. That's one of the most important buildings, like I said previously. The market can actually wait, if I think about it. And you guys can start chopping wood. Also going to get a bunch more peasants. Going to have them collect food soon. An Orthodox cathedral. Oh, okay. This is actually the church from Moscow. I expected a much more... Well, actually a much less grandiose building, but okay. Whatever. And again, the idle peasants thing is extremely useful. Just give you a very clear indication of what you need to do and what your people are actually doing, because you don't want to have idle peasants at any point in the game, unless you're waiting for them, like I am right now. There we go. Start producing food. Build a whole load of those. Start producing even more food. Get a barracks going. Again, it's all again mostly cosmetic, but there are key differences between which you will notice, I assume, in a bit now, between for example, the English civilization and how they work, and the Russians here, and their units, their playstyle, and such. Once more, the key components are there, and they are set in stone, pretty much. There's not... it's not like the Russians don't harvest wood or whatever. The basis of the game is there, but there are key differences between these factions, and if I had to put this game in like a comparison scenario, or like just compare it with something directly, and I have to sort of say what it is based on previous experiences with similar games, I would put it between Age of Empires and Rise of Nations. Now, I don't know how many of you, or if any, have ever played Rise of Nations. It's a great game, don't get me wrong. It's a great game, focused more on, though, evolution. If you play the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but in that game you can go from one era to the next. Basically, you start off from the Stone Age and work up all the way to modern military, jets, tanks, stuff like that. Here it's just between the 17th and the 18th century, but it's pretty much in the same style of things. The AI is also in a massive lead over me, but alas, alack, that is the situation we are going to have to deal with, apparently. What do I need? Do I need... I might as well get some stone. I need gold. Let's build a gold mine over there. Then we can start trading away stuff, or buying resources alternatively. We might want to buy some timber, actually. For 100 gold we can get 200 timber. There we go. The UI for the market, I don't dislike it, but there are better ways of doing it. For example, like I said, in Rise of Nations, I really like the trading UI. You'd get two tables. This is sell, this is buy. The green ones are sell, the red ones are buy. It's like the red button is buying, the green button is selling. You could sell 100 of something and you would get gold, and you can buy something for gold again. Here it allows you to trade, for example, food for coal, like so, which is okay, but I think I would prefer if the trade system was a little bit different in that you can only trade with gold. I think that would make a lot of sense, and it would obviously have to involve a little bit of rebalancing, and it wouldn't exactly be dumbing things down. It would be, in my modest opinion, simplification, but for a noble and good reason. Now, obviously, I haven't played the game for hours on end, and for hundreds of hours, so I don't exactly know whether I'm going to have the same opinion now and after like 200 hours of playing this, but initially it seems like I would prefer just to be able to just trade with gold and work like around it. For example, sell coal, get gold, and use that gold to buy food. I think you would basically get the same result, only a little bit cleaner. Or, maybe not cleaner, like more of a straightforward route to said objective, but just a very minor complaint there. Speaking of complaints, other than that, I don't really see any reason to complain about this game. There's no glaring flaws with it, at least not from what I can tell. It's a very good game. It's a the performance has been great on my system. Again, other than that one crash. The gameplay is awesome, the base building is very fun, which is often difficult to nail down unless your name is StarCraft. Base building can often be like a chore or a little bit unintuitive, a little bit boring at times. Now they nailed the base building bit. It's very fun to build these hundreds upon hundreds of peasants and then have them do, whatever you want them to do. It's absolutely a pleasure to play this game. It's one of the... In recent memory, I'm thinking like 2010 onwards, this is probably the best strategy game set in this era, and I'm not counting, like, real-time strategy games, I'm not counting Total War games towards this because it's an entirely different genre of games to begin with, but I would call this the best game in this time period and in this of this type, shall we say, in recent memory, which is pretty damn high praise, but in my opinion, completely deservedly so. Now, what I'm going to do now is, that's pretty much it as far as my first impressions go. Would I recommend this game? Absolutely. If you can get over the graphic style, which I will admit is not for everyone, but especially if you played Age of Empires and stuff like this, you're going to feel right at home with this. You really are. You're going to feel right at home with this game. You're going to have an amazing experience, I guarantee it. fantastic game. If, however, you're not quite sure about the graphic style and would prefer something along the lines of more detail and more high graphical fidelity, I would still say give it a shot. I mean, for example, was it Crusader King? No. It's not Crusader Kings, because that's a Paradox Grand Strategy game. That was the other one. I can't for the life... It revolted around Kings and Crusaders, okay? It pretty much like it had the very similar graphics, and we had a remake of those games recently, and they pretty much look like this. Also, Age of Empires had its remake, again similar graphic style. It's I would say give it a shot, even if you initially might say you don't like something like this. I would definitely recommend that you try it out. Oh, there we go. We're gonna see our first bit of combat. I have a priest. No, I can't believe what I just said either. Yeah, these are Janissaries, aren't they? Melee units. Ooh. Let's see if I can repel this. I don't think I can repel this. Despite my firepower superiority, numerically they are just going to crush me. Yup. Absolutely. Unfortunately, whilst your peasants can't fight, you cannot turn them into militia, which means that they're pretty much going to get wrecked. There we go. I have not built enough units. Like I said, I am utter trash at this game and have finished only the first few missions, so do not expect any miracles. Pathfinding and the AI, though, from what I've seen, is also solid. Something that you might not necessarily be accustomed to or expect in situations like these. Also, if you click on enemy units, you can see how much health they have, which is very good. Can we kill their officer? I think that would actually be beneficial to us all. Yeah, we're not going to survive this. Oh well. There we go. That's pretty much everything I have for this video. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bijan. Please remember to like and subscribe down below if you enjoyed, as it really helps the channel out. I'm going to have a few more first impressions of other games. Hopefully games that I suck less at than this one. But until then, take care and have fun, and bye-bye. And go pick up this game. It's really good. If you like strategy games, RTSs, base building, awesome game. Despite me sucking at it, I'm going to give this a few more hours of practice and come back to you then. Take care, like I said, and bye-bye.